Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Welcome back. Let's continue.
You are no longer linked with one body and mind, you are linked with the rest of creation.
What I want to ask is, Dilip, in today's world, and especially in Western world, where there are multicultural and multi-religion we find here, how can an Advait continue or be consistent being Advait without being in their daily life or in the business, without being risking to be labeled as, if they're soft, they're counted as meek, or if they're bold, they can be arrogant, without being labeled as that, but you continue to be Advait.
You see, another popular name for Advait, I'm using all this kind of in a very free-flowing manner. I'm not trying to be pedantic here. Another way of encapsulating the idea of Advait is this. It is this lovely word that comes with Swami Vivekananda. It is called spiritual humanism. He says that we are all extremely unusual. We think we are nobodies and we are meek and mild and we have to kind of play ball. In reality, we are that thing that we were searching for in the seventh heaven. That is our essential nature. This is a very empowering thing. But the unique feature is this. It doesn't empower you in the mode in which you used to become empowered in the past, because now you can no longer look out for your own interest, because now you are linked with the rest of mankind. So what happens is this. This is why it's humanism. Not just spiritual, not becoming recognized I am spirit, but spiritual humanism. Now you recognize your oneness with the rest of the world. So what happens is this. Now all the activities you do, this is how you put Advaita into practice. Every activity that makes me forget that I am this little body and looking after my little interests, every activity that allows me to forget, move away from the idea that I am this little personality, is going to link me with my true nature. So then the way you become fully, in full flow of Advaita is to live for others. Live for others. You don't understand. People somehow think, oh yeah, it's nice to be goody-goody and maybe you do philanthropic work. It's not that. You actually experience tremendous affinity for the rest of the human beings. And this affinity is so sweet that you first time really begin to live in, if you like, in your true majesty. When we live as an individual, looking after me and my little family, I become mean and I become contracted, and every contraction is death and every expansion is life. So you now are living life to the full. So it's not that you need to set up hospitals and go and look after the old people. You just feel tremendous oneness with the rest of the living kingdom, and that itself is very thrilling, because you really for the first time are truly living. The lovely thing that came with Swami Vivekananda, look at the language. He was a master of words. He says, they alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. Dead bodies moving about, chewing, sitting in the corner, eating his food, saying, me and my family, oh, we are so happy. Not happy. You are dead. It is when you live with feeling a tremendous oneness. You see, again this idea, oh, you have to do good to the world and all. It's not this kind of rhetoric. It's not this kind of showmanship. You just feel tremendous flow. You love mankind. Your eyes light up when you see other human beings. This is the sign of Advaita. Again, one thing that you will find with people who have established Advaita is this. Again, this came from one of the great Swamis. He said, a person of Advaita nature, if you meet him, you will notice one thing. When you are talking to him, etc., a part of his mind seems to be somewhere else. He is linked with the rest of the living kingdom. You see, he is no longer able to limit himself to this one body and one mind. He is linked, and you can see it. There's a bit of distraction in his eyes. You can actually make out that he is somehow linked. Even though he's talking to you, he appears normal human being, there is something unique about him. He feels oneness all the time. While he's talking to that link, you see, he can never give that up. Once he has tasted that magic, he can never give it up. So part of his mind is all the time linked with the rest of creation. And you can see that from the mannerism. So this, if you like, is spiritual humanism. It's not becoming meek and mild and letting people walk all over you. It is nothing of the sort. I mean, can you imagine the Vivekananda letting anybody walk over him? It is this, established feeling, becoming more empowered to recognize your true dignity in a way that allows you to live life to the full. And this, again, I will repeat this, but this is a very important thing. The way these personalities behave, this lovely thing I've said before, I must repeat it still. They walk about, they go about their worldly life like a king, like a master, and not like a slave. When we reduce ourselves to this one little body, we become slaves to these requirements of this little tiddly little thing. And we turn to little mean slaves. We are at the mercy. When we expand and see our oneness with the rest of creation, we really live like royalty. We live like kings. We behave like kings. We walk like kings. And yet desire nothing. Because we are that one. We are full, resplendent. We are complete. Why should we desire anything? Desires drop off. There's a very nice way somebody mentioned. You see, there are, for example, certain prescriptions. They say, okay, you must practice vivek, discrimination regarding what is real and what is not real. So keep seeing, doing this. And the second they say is vairagya. There's a nice way of defining vairagya. The literal meaning of the word vairagya is to lose color. Suppose there's this nice kind of tray of fruit that gives us nice tray of fruit, all colorful, red and green, and yes, we have mouth water straight away. Suppose it's black and white. The color was taken or drained out of it. You'll say, you're not very sure whether to eat the apple or the pear because they all look black and white. You seem to lose that. That is all vairagya is about. Once that is cleared away from your eyes, then that allurement, that attachment is gone. You still see the fruit, but now it's black and white. So it doesn't have the same allure. This is called vairagya. And sometimes you think, now, how can I develop that sense of vairagya? Because it's so difficult. In a way, this chicken and egg argument. It is when you have a glimpse of your essential nature as a spirit, it comes naturally. So vairagya follows. So you don't know how to do it the other way around. How to develop vairagya without actually experiencing yourself as a spirit. So it is a bit of a chicken and egg argument. But somehow we kind of rumble through and kind of put everything through and it works out. But sometimes what happens is experience comes first and then the practice arises. Then you say, oh my God, this experience, this lifestyle is no good. So lifestyle changes and you develop vivek and vairagya. In some cases, you put in tremendous vivek, vairagya, and the spirit doesn't arise at all. You still say, a boring old I should use the language. You're just boring, And then you just continue to suffer like this, struggle like this. But life is like that, you see. It's some Ashokan say, it's a rush. Suppose it takes longer. Enjoy the trip. Because after you found God, what else is there? So why rush? Take your time.
Dilip, you talked about the meditation, and then you said that we drop the body and we become being. And then you spoke briefly about science discovering the essence behind matter. And then you said, somewhere along the line, that the essence behind everything is unknowable. Will science ever come to know the essence behind matter?
See, science is actually, give full marks to science. Because what is science done? Science, this is it. It's a very disciplined enterprise, very durable enterprise, because it has provided such positive things for mankind. You can never underestimate the power of science. Never undervalue it. Because of science, our lifespan has doubled almost this last year. Doubled almost. Everybody now lives 90. Before they used to die 30, 40. So modern science, medical science, physical sciences has done a great deal to alleviate a lot of pressure, a lot of suffering of mankind. There is not the slightest doubt. And how have they done it? By being very rigid, very rigorous about their discipline. Anything that is fluffy, they will throw it away. They've been very rigorous. They said, okay, we are going to define science in this way. This is the kind of way they define science. They say, things first of all, unless they can be reduced to sense data, we call it poetry. No good to us, go away. So unless you can reduce things to sense data, don't bother us. This is the rule. And again, the explanation we will give you will always be self-consistent. It should not have contradictions within. This is how science, so these are the two kind of pillars on which science is built. Reduce everything, so no fluffy stuff, sense data. Does it produce a click on my oscilloscope? Yes, that's called science. You're saying, poetry, that's go away. No good to us. So this is a very, very rigid discipline.
To talk about that real quick, I mean, obviously it has to be because, if it's not rigid, then it's very flowy, I guess, to describe it. Just essentially saying that anything can happen then, and that it's fact. So kind of like if you if you take this pill, no, not this, that's a little bit too actually true. If you read this poem, then you'll feel so much better about yourself. And the poem says, poo poo, poo poo, pee pee. Do you feel better about yourself? No? Well, science says you should, but yet you didn't. Hmm. Does that really make it science? So what science tries to do is be consistent. That when things that are subjective, like again that beautiful beautiful poem that I just said, obviously it deserves an Oscar or something along those lines. Give me my gold plate medal for that beautiful beautiful poem. But obviously not everyone's going to agree that that poem that I said was beautiful. So science don't delve into subjective matter. And I do believe science will discover everything in the material realm. Whether it can be sensed with our sense organs or not. Just the thing is though is that it has to be able to be sensed. So what I mean by that is like, well, we can't see ultraviolet light. Is it ultraviolet light or infrared light? But but we do have equipment that can. Kind of like what is it? I remember we're seeing this either movie, military movie where they shot a flare, not a typical flare. It's shot out, but if you're looking through your normal eyes, nothing's going on. But when you put on these lenses, all of a sudden it just lights up the area because I guess it's a type of light that we cannot see with the naked eye, but with a special type of lens or whatever, we can see it. And as a matter of fact, will light up the area, and so you can see the area and the freaking flare. So while it's not necessarily, it is tied to our five senses, but it has to be translated from something else that our five senses can detect. So it has to be able to translate from, again, that flare. Normally we can't see it, but because of a special goggles, we can then see it. So I do believe science will detect everything in terms of the material realms. And it's not going to be something subjective, of course.
And with this very rigid discipline, this is the unique feature, because they are not prepared to let go. They are not going to go with they are not going to be way late. They are going to follow this principle to the letter, to this conclusion. This is the unique feature. So they are doing this thing. Okay, now the master science of all the science is called physics. The rest of them are kind of little babies. Everything can be explained in terms of physics. The rest is called stem collecting, said one scientist. Everything must be reduced, like biology, chemistry, neuro, everything. What is this thing, that inner thing, the ultimate thing, little thing with its properties? And they sit together in this particular fashion and produce this external thing. And the properties of that turns into a human being. See, we explain everything in terms of this little lump of matter. So they were, in a very focused manner, trying to come to terms with what is the constituent, what is the primary building block of this universe. They were saying, we will not look sideways, we want to really hit the jackpot. And this continued to progress extremely well until the middle of 1920s. And the fun started. Initially, when they were looking at the smallest constituent of matter, they said, okay, the way we see the smallest bit of matter is to throw light at it. Very high frequency light, so it can really see the depth of this thing. So they're using light to see the smallest bit of matter. They're still after matter. There's an infatuation in the West for matter. We are stuck with matter, infatuation in the West. And this is translated into East now, because this is a global infatuation, infection if you like. Everything has been reduced to lump of matter. Matter seems to be the central thing. Everything epiphenom of matter. Matter is the central thing. So this has been going on. So they say, now let's go right to the heart of matter. See what is this? What's the final thing? Final. They thought they'll come to one final and then everything can be explained away. And when they came to that, magic. Initially what they did is, because we threw light on it, it kind of shifts because light disturbs it. It's called a little fuzz, because we can't really grasp it properly because we keep disturbing it. While we are trying to observe it, we disturb it. This is how it started. And then suddenly it matured. They say, oh dear. What are we discovering? That little lump of matter we thought was permanent and sitting there, that we can say, hello, lump of matter, atom, nucleus or whatever. is not there. It disappeared. And instead of that was left something that they say we define as quantum. And they say, what is quantum? Well, we know the mathematics behind it. Don't ask us. So we say, no, what is it? What is the primary building block? And now, in 1920s, the father of this particular physics said, we can say with certainty that the primary thing is not matter. Matter is an appearance. This is the finding of quantum. This is not hippie physics. This is not new age physics. This is mainstream physics, saying that really we tell you one thing. This is something that is, matter is a paradox. The thing that is underpinning matter, which is not matter, is reality. So right at the heart of science, not in the periphery, not somewhere in the outside kind of realms where they kind of little bits of things that are not sorted out. Right at the heart of it, when you're trying to, look at the fabric of reality, you suddenly find things which is, what is it? And there is a famous physicist called Richard Feynman. He used to go around, he's pastor sometimes, but he used to go to every university and have fun with all of them because he was a naughty guy. He used to say, okay, you know quantum mechanics? They say, yeah, you can solve the equation, do the DNA and the computer, yeah, we can do it to the 10th decimal place. Good, he said. Now I'm asking, what is it? What is quantum? Conceptually, what is, not the mathematics, what is it? They said, don't ask. You couldn't find a single scientist who put his hand up and said, I know what is quantum. Because why? Because we have suddenly shifted from a very material world to a non-material world, a spiritual world, and there is no language for it. There's no room for it in science. There's spirit, how did it appear here? How dare it appear here? We are talking of material world, material science, and how did this nasty thing turn up here? So since middle of 90s, they've shoved it under the carpet. It's up to now, it's shoved under the carpet. And this is why these ideas of this Brahman, this idea of the spirit as the underpinning the world, will suddenly find, if you like, better expression, not with Adi Shankara, not with Maya, but with quantum. This is the unique thing. That's why you say, when we look at the apex of the Hindu teachings and the findings at the cutting edge of, not the ancient science, the modern science, the cutting edge of modern science, we shake hands. We are talking the same language.
I will say I know he does talk a lot about quantum, quite a bit. That's very interesting. He never explained that in terms of quantum, that matter itself is an illusion. That's the first time I've heard him say that. That's kind of, I don't know if it's true or not. I mean, I know he's into this, but, that's kind of crazy, I suppose. I'm trying to think. There's something else he said about quantum that I wanted to say, but I don't remember anyways. So yeah, anyways, interesting that matter, which is supposedly underpinning reality itself, is not in itself underpinning reality, but there's something underpinning matter itself.
Do they admit that it's spirit?
This is what's happening. So in fact, I've been telling the BBC, and I repeated that I'm going to meet them on the 29th January. Pray for me. If you're a theist, and wish me well if you're not non-theist. I'm going to meet again the BBC commissioning agent. And the 29th Jan, we are discussing a documentary called Death of Materialism, Yet to be Reported. I keep saying, I got the title. The rest will sort you out. Let's get started. So this thing that I record at Eton might be, I put it on its table and say, look at it. See how the youngsters love it. So the youngsters lap it up, so why don't you? It can be presented in, these ideas can be presented in a layman's language. People think, you require equations. You don't need equations. I'm simply saying that when you dig deep, things become different. And they are not material. So what are they? If it is non-material, the only language left is spiritual. But you say, no, spirit don't come in physics. No time for this, no room for you. This is being enforced. In fact, the way science will progress is to take on this dimension of the spirit. Physics has to merge into metaphysics. Science has to merge into spirituality for it to get further. Otherwise, it's stuck at the moment. It's stuck, really stuck. They don't know. That's why people don't go into theoretical physics anymore. There's nothing there. They've given up. The whole thing is digressing. They don't know where they are anymore because they are not prepared to acknowledge the idea of the spirit, something that is non-material. Because this is why they're pulling their hair out. Because at the heart of matter, they discover something which is not matter. And that is reality, and matter is an epiphenomena, it's a paradox. It should not be there at all. So this thing shouldn't be there. You know what Adi Shankara telling? It's physics telling. This is not real.
Well, the problem is, again, it's the wording, spirit. It's in the Western world, it has a it is heavily tied to religion. So if there's just another word he could have used for that, but maybe it is the best word, but he has to then explain. When I say spirit, I don't mean the Western version of spirit, but I mean the Eastern version of spirit, and then explain what it is.
But they've come to know it.
Oh yeah, they know it in the sense
So
that
it's knowable.
yeah, it in the knowable in the sense that the spirit will stay, because when you look at the quantum and say, okay, now because quantum is non-material, it can never produce a click on your oscilloscope. So it cannot be knowable in the old method of physics, which says reduce everything to sense data, because it will say no sense data business. I'm not matter, so how can I produce a click? So in that sense, it will always stay aloof. But that's what spirit is about. People sometimes say, why is the spirit invisible? Precisely because it is not matter. Because the moment it becomes visible, it becomes matter. I cock you. See, so oh no, I hope the spirit was not invisible, so you could easily understand it. But then it will be matter, don't you see? Then you shot yourself in the foot. Thank God it doesn't become matter. Otherwise, it is no longer the spirit. You see, we can know things which are outside of us. How do we know ourselves? This is the power of Advaita. It is when you search for yourself, your own validity, your own credentials, that you hit the jackpot. You are that. And again, suppose I just speculated about it and made poetry out of it. It's no value. When you discover this kind of gentleman, you say, I know that because I experience that day and night. I can close my eyes and experience and go, yo. And this experience is so more overwhelming, so dynamic, so life-altering, that you know it is for real. It is not just something make-believe. It changes the life of the people who experience. Even if you had a glimpse of it, your life is altered forever. You can never go back. You see, because you've seen through it. Because you've seen through it, then you see the allurement is gone. You are no longer have that attachment or attraction. That disappears. You may think, oh my God, it might be drab. It's not drab because yeah, I want that again. You're after it then. Because that is sweeter than the sweetest. So everything we did, everything we chased after, it was chasing after shadows. And then we hit the real stuff, the juicy stuff. Then why are we going to chase the shadows anymore? We give it up. It happens, that's why it comes naturally.
If we are that, why don't many of us, experience it? There are millions of us who don't experience it, and there's 1 in million or 1 in billion probably experience that. So what's the catch there?
Yeah.
What's our limitation?
See, some
Well, this one's a short answer. Holy crap. I guess I'll let it
people
finish.
think that as mankind is evolving, we should all be kind of experiencing this. In fact, I am personally of the belief. I believe that with the science being the ally of spirituality, huge number of mankind will experience this for themselves in this age. It is the science of modern times, not the prophets of the past, that will lead mankind back to spirituality. Science of today. I'm very optimistic. So I'm not at all negative. But then they say, oh, there are so many other ignorant people. What's happening? Don't we know? In Hinduism, we believe in reincarnation. Lots of plants are becoming animals, insects, animals, and they're coming into the human kingdom. Most of them live at the level of the senses. Yes, eat, drink, and marry and burp. So it will continue as well. It's not going to go away. It's fun, isn't it? The whole thing carries on. Some will become, people say, oh, because I become one with God, I lose my individuality. You don't lose, you rediscover it. That's all, you rediscover it. You don't lose it. You become, for the first time, you discover your real individuality, which is God. So you don't merge in, you don't disappear, go plonk like that. You in fact say, wow, I am that. So it's the most exciting experience. And yet, huge masses of living things are coming out from the animal kingdom, waiting to say, yeah, my turn, my turn. Let them come.
Hmm. So, kind of to explain that last part, but just more along the lines of the fact that, I guess I was going to answer in terms of Advaita Vedanta, which is the fact that you are, obviously, still stating that, you are that. But it's just that we're ignorant of the fact. And also not realizing that we are that is a big one. Because the ego is so strong that we think that we are the ego and not that. But anyways, that's the end of this video. He does talk quite about it quite a lot. It's very interesting how he goes to quantum physics, thinking that it will explain it, which would be very interesting if it does. I know, yeah, I know a lot of people will probably say that it probably something that you can never experience, something that could probably never be necessarily explained. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Something you can never really necessarily explain, and it's not something that you can necessarily experience externally, but it is something that you experience internally. Something that you have to experience internally. It's not something external anyway. So, so anyway, that's my reaction to Advaita Vedanta, J. Lakhani, Hindu Academy. Um, so I was hoping he would explain a little bit more to that. And again, he goes back to the quantum physics thing. I mean, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vid.